Good morning, I should say. This is Liz Marker and Jake Elms, managers of the Westcott's payroll department. And today we're going to have a chat on national minimum wage investigations and PAYE compliance checks, which HMRC like to drop on our clients now and again. So hopefully we can sort of give you some idea of what to expect, and also the opportunity to ask us to come in just to give you a bit of a once over, so that should you get investigated or checked by HMRC, you know what to expect and you feel a bit more relaxed about it. So I'm going to sort of start this conversation off with national minimum wage.
Yeah,
we've done a couple of we've helped our clients out, haven't we?
we have. We've visited a few clients and assisted them with their inspections from HMRC. We've prepared them. We've reviewed all of their information and set them in good stead to make sure that they can advise and work with HMRC to ensure that they're compliant, and if there is any issues that we can make them as little as possible and resolve the issues. So.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the biggest thing I think that we found is making sure that our clients are fully aware of their duties with regards to national minimum wage, as well as the procedures that they have set up when employing employees. You would think paying somebody national minimum wage is just a case of there is an amount that you pay, an hourly rate that you pay, and it is age related. So if they have a birthday, it goes up and you increase it. Bob's your uncle. That's it, the end. But there are so many different things involved in
complexities
that.
Involved.
Definitely.
Cause issues along the way.
Definitely. And also, if you aren't paying the correct national minimum wage, as of June last year, the penalty went up from 100% of the shortfall to 200%, up to a maximum of £20,000 per worker if you are consistently not paying them the correct national minimum wage.
Yeah, it's an excessive increase, isn't it?
So absolutely.
It's definitely worthwhile getting it right.
Yeah. So when does I'm going to test you now, Jake. When do the national minimum wage rates go up?
From the 1st of April.
And so from only the month after next.
Yes, I know. Coming around fast.
Yeah, the wage rates will be going up to 16 to 17-year-olds 528, 18 to 20 749, and 21 to 22 1018. So we've gone above the £10 mark.
Yeah.
And then age 23 and over, which is classed as the national living wage, is going up to 1042.
Yeah.
So it is crucial that when you set up a new employee that you've got the correct date of birth, because it's not an excuse if you've put the wrong date of birth in.
Yeah.
It could be you've put in the 4th and it should have been the 8th, and that's 2 months where you've been underpaying somebody, and you've got to make it good. So that is one area that we check if we go out, make sure, and it's a check that you should be doing anyway, checking at the beginning of any tax year, really making sure you've got up-to-date information on all of your employees. Well, the other area that is can cause problems is taking on apprenticeships. Are your employees a legitimate apprentice? Because if they're a legitimate apprentice and they are being paid the apprentice rate, and they are what you consider to be an apprentice, they're not necessarily going to a college, but you are training them on the job. Have you got a proper apprenticeship agreement? Ideally, if they're an apprentice, you would probably be sending them off to a college once a week. Are you paying them when they're at college? And it's all that sort of thing that you have to take into consideration. Now, when you take them on, and you might well take them on at 16, you can pay them, or 16, 17, you can pay them at the apprenticeship rate. But what happens when they turn 19?
The apprentice rate obviously lasts for 1 year from their 19th birthday, and as soon as they had more than a year's employment over 19, then it must meet the minimum wage requirements from there onwards. So
sure.
there
Yeah.
are there are definitely complexities
Oh, trip
to
payroll is
apprentices. So
payroll, isn't it?
you've got to be wary of these
Yeah,
things.
there's always something to trip you up with payroll
Yeah,
every
absolutely.
time. So, yeah, as far as the apprentice, anybody that you're training, you must make sure you've got an apprenticeship
Yeah.
or a training agreement
Yeah.
with them.
Record keeping is
Oh,
vital, isn't it? Because there's
absolutely.
a lot of the investigation is based around the records that are kept, that are held within the system and off the system.
Yeah,
Simple things as clocking in systems
yeah,
for the employees is always it's always one
yeah,
that's picked up and
yeah.
reviewed by HMRC.
It's not an excuse if you have record keeping that says they started at 11 and they finished when they finished.
Yeah.
What time is that?
Yeah, there needs to be clocking in, clocking out.
Absolutely. I mean, my advice to anybody is to have a proper um, recording. You get time and attendance
Yes.
software now. Use it, because quite often people fall over with the national minimum wage when they may be due to start at, I mean, they could well finish at 5, but they don't actually finish their job till 5:15 because they're tying things up, but they're only paid till 5.
Yeah.
Because they have to lock up or they have to cash up or they have to do some other task. But it could be a shop. The shop finishes at 5. So as far as their wage is concerned, they finish at 5. Well, they don't. They're continuing to work. And that's where people fall down.
Yes.
And deductions, that's another area that is...
Deductions is a big risk,
Oh,
isn't it?
it absolutely is. Absolutely is. Salary sacrifice. You think salary sacrifice is absolutely perfectly fine to do. And it could be a pension salary sacrifice, but it's going into the employee's pension pot. But hang on a minute, you are taking money from their gross pay, which is reducing their national minimum wage rate.
Yeah.
And therefore, if you get an investigation, the employer, I should say, has to make it right. They have to make sure they pay, they reimburse the employee of the shortfall from their national minimum wage. So any time you're looking at an employee that says, I want to do salary sacrifice, cycle to work scheme or anything like that, you have to look at what you're paying them in order to make sure that they don't reduce their national living wage or national minimum wage. So that is crucial. We quite often get DBS deductions, clothing deductions. You find that you work in a pub and everybody has to wear a black top. An employee might be one of these that only ever wears pink. But then they have to go out and specifically buy a black top or buy safety shoes. That, again, comes off their national minimum wage or their take-home pay. But then it's reworked, and if it brings then their hourly rate down to below national minimum wage, there's an issue. So it's all this sort of thing that we have to think about, and that's the sort of thing that when you do get an investigation from from HMRC, they will look at, and it is crucial that you make sure whenever you do have any deductions that it isn't affecting the national minimum wage. You have to just think that little bit further along.
Yeah, there are obviously some deductions that are, don't affect the minimum wage. So, it's just working out which
absolutely
do and which
then
don't,
we can
and
help
then we
out
can
with
help.
that.
Exactly.
We can help out with that. Exactly. You've also got where you've got accommodation.
Yeah.
You've got to consider
accommodation offset.
The accommodation offset, again, that is something that we can help our clients with, explaining how to operate
if there's living accommodation within an employment that's involved to prevent travelling. Various reasons.
There is another. Yeah, exactly. But even travelling.
To it,
but we have had situations. Yeah, but my staff don't actually start work until they arrive on the site, so I don't pay them until they arrive on the site. But you've got to pay them for the time it's taken them to travel to that site. It's all that side of things as well.
Yeah.
Going to college,
Yeah.
we've talked about apprenticeships, but going to college, you've got to pay them when they're
Yeah.
at college if it is a work-related training course.
Mm.
There's so many pitfalls involved in it all. Also, you've got to consider the way you pay your employees. There's different ways. Most people are paid either by a salary, but again, you've got to make sure that they might be salaried to work a set amount of hours each week and you pay them a lump sum each month. But does that equate to being paid above or at the national minimum wage? It is something that you need to be aware of and checking all of the
Constantly
time.
reviewing, yes.
Absolutely. I mean, there's timed work, which we've talked about, shift work, where you clock in, clock out, output work, where you've got workers who basically are paid for producing products and a certain amount of products, where you've got to do calculations in order to make sure that they are being paid per hour the right amount. So
a lot of those fall into like certain shifts, and it could be 3 hours work, it could be 10 hours work, but ultimately you've got to ensure that payment for
you've got time you've got to work out a fair, you've got to do all sorts of checks, haven't you? You've got to run where you have a group of people, and it can't be your highest performers. You've got to have a selection of workers where you time them to do that particular work, and then you add a little bit more on just to be on the safe side. And then in order to work out a fair rate to pay to produce that widget, and that it is within the national minimum wage rate. Unmeasured work is another form of working. Again, this is something that we would help if we have any of our clients who pay their staff by this, to ensure that they are being paid the correct national minimum wage rate. So we have, what makes me laugh with this is some of the excuses that come up with not paying the right national minimum wage. She doesn't deserve national minimum wage because she only makes teas and sweeps the floors. So this is a great one. My accountant and I speak in different languages. So he doesn't understand me, and that's why he doesn't pay my workers the correct wage. So
the accountant, I think, is
exactly.
Is the sum up there, isn't it?
Hopefully, mascots can understand the language that you're using. So there is quite a few. Yeah, my employee is still learning, so they aren't entitled to national minimum wage. That's just to name a few. So I've just briefly talked about a national minimum wage investigation, but there are other types of investigation that HMRC can do, and I think you're going to briefly talk about compliance, PAYE compliance.
So we've had little involvement with the PAYE compliance checks as such, but we've had experience from it, between us. So ultimately, the compliance checks, what the HMRC aim to achieve, they're obviously checking for the taxes are paid correctly and paid on time. They're looking to discourage any form of tax evasion and ensure that the tax system is operating fairly. So that's obviously an internal matter from their perspective, just to make sure that it's even across the board, and that's why they review it all the time, and they're adjusting the bandings for tax, for national insurance, ensure that everyone's receiving and claiming the right allowances and tax reliefs, because as much as they're not necessarily looking to penalise people, but it could work out in their favour if people aren't claiming the employment allowance, which is common to pick up now. So there's definitely areas where we can help, and we can review this, how people are processing their payroll procedures and ensure that they are making all the necessary claims to ensure that they're claiming the employment allowance, or ensure they're applying the small employer relief.
Exactly. And the nice thing about working with Westcott's is we've got so many different departments, and we've got a fabulous, fantastic tax department that we can go to, because we specialise in our area, which will merge over into employment taxes, self-assessment, we don't touch that, but we've got a tax team that can help. So between us, if there's something that we can't help with, we can always refer it over to one of our other
Yeah,
departments.
it's a big team, and there's a lot of specialist
Yeah.
sectors, and we all
Oh,
work as one. And
yeah.
that's, you know,
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah. We're one
key
big
thing. One
happy
big firm
family.
working together to achieve. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's always good to know that, you know, if we can't answer anything, we can certainly pass the message on, or, you know, speak to them internally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
From HMRC's perspective, they don't just cover obviously PAYE taxes. They obviously look at accounts and tax calculations, self-assessment, company tax returns, and any taxes that can be, you know, deducted from an individual or a business. So it's not just PAYE. So again, that's something that we could, if someone came to us looking for assistance, we can speak
Refer
to,
them.
yeah, exactly, speak to the
Refer
relevant
them
department
to the
and
right. Yeah.
exactly, and specialists across the board. So we
Yeah.
can certainly
Yeah.
look to help them.
So that is, I mean, I think we've got a group of people that know their limitations
Yeah.
and know that you've got to make sure that you are sure in what in how we're helping our
Yes.
our clients, and knowing that, okay, this isn't necessarily my area, but I've got somebody who can help you out with
Exactly.
that.
Exceptional service as well. So
Yeah.
across the
Yeah.
board, that's what we aim to achieve.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
definitely think that as a team, we do,
Yeah, I think so.
apply that. So
I think you and I make a good team, don't we, Jake?
we're a good team.
Yeah. So
yeah. So if we go back to the compliance checks, there's just a few processes just to, you know, make everyone aware of how it works effectively. So HMRC will contact you. They'll write to a business. Generally, they select it at random, but there could also be, you know, a potential complaint made from an employee. Certainly from the minimum wage investigations, it does tend to be a disgruntled employee that's,
or
you
it
know,
could be
made a
just
complaint.
that sector that they're targeting.
Exactly.
Could be,
So there's
hospitality is on the hit list.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's down certainly pitfalls within certain areas.
Yeah.
Like the care sector, like the hospitality sector,
absolutely,
that they can look to review a bit more often than other areas, I suppose. So HMRC will make the contact and look to follow that up with emails and phone calls, to review any initial information before making a date to visit, and then review all the records at that point. So, and this isn't just relating to the PAYE compliance checks. It is a similar process for the minimum wage investigations. And they just review all of that information, just to ensure that the operation of PAYE and NI is correct, and the record keeping is up to date.
It's scary though, isn't it? It's scary for I mean, in my former life, in my first marriage, my ex-husband and I had a business running, and I would be terrified going to the accountant because it is quite scary. So to have HMRC investigate, it can be quite a daunting affair. But what we would like to get out there today is that it doesn't need to be, because we're here to help you. We're here. That's our logo, isn't it? We're here for you. And that is so true, that we're here to help our clients feel more confident in their own abilities and self, that it's not going to be daunting. It you know, just all we're doing is checklisting, ticking off everything. Yeah, you're doing that right. You're doing that right. You're doing this right. Maybe improve on this by doing this system.
Put them all at ease.
Absolutely. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
It's not a case of trying to find out, you know, that you're not doing it as well as we would. That's not what it's about.
No.
Yeah.
And ultimately, this doesn't have to necessarily come from an investigation. If HMRC have written to you, obviously by any means, contact us and we can help. But if you just want
peace of mind,
if you want us to review anything,
if you're new, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, this is what I always say to my clients. You know, this is what I do. This is what I do as a living. I know this area, but if I'm talking to a mechanic, I don't know. I know that a car has a steering wheel and four 4 wheels. That's it. That's all I know. That's the area that they're in. But together we can work, and I can help you run your business from this aspect, from payroll aspect, making sure your employees are all happy. Because if you've got a happy workforce, because at the end of the day, the one reason why we all get out of bed every day and go through the traffic to get into work is so that we get paid.
Yeah.
So it is so important that our employees are all paid the right amount of money, because if you've got a happy workforce, you've got a productive, loyal workforce.
Yeah.
And if Westcott's can help that with that, well,
it benefits everyone.
We've done our job well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and I think that if we've covered everything there,
that wraps up, doesn't it?
I mean, hopefully, if nothing else, just pick up the phone, give us a shout, and we'll put your mind at rest.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a 5-minute telephone conversation, or you might want us to pop out and have a chat with you and just see how your systems are all set up. You might want us to have a look at the way your payroll software works to make sure that you're happy with that. And we can do that. We can do that once a year. We can do it once every 5 years, just to put your mind at rest. So just pick up the phone.
Yeah. Get in touch.
And get in touch.
We're here.
We're here. Yeah. So that's it. I think that's Liz and Jake
from
the payroll department of Westcott's wrapping up for the day.